Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Stitch Together podcast. My name is Chrissy and I'm your host, and today is the 5th of December 2015. It's really good to be back in front of the camera. It's been a bit of a strange couple of weeks for me personally, but that doesn't mean I haven't been crafting lots. There's just been lots going on, things like, doing the Christmas shopping and organising trips home and seeing people, and it's just been a bit busy really. And on top of that, I've had a lot of paperwork through that I have to fill out in order to continue getting my disability support. It's a complicated system that's been changed and made equally complicated, but in different ways. And I've kind of got the hang of the old system, and this new system's really different. So it's kind of taken me a while to get my head around the paperwork, because it's hard to concentrate for any length of time when you take lots of opiates like I do, and it becomes more complicated to try and get ideas across in a complete and concise way. So it's taken a lot of my energy up. Not that you needed to know any of that whatsoever, because you really don't care about the paperwork that's involved in being disabled in the UK. Anyway, I've been up to lots of crafting, so I have lots to show you from the last couple of weeks. I'm saying a lot, don't like doing that, must stop. I used to be able to edit them out when I did an audio podcast, but now it's all seen and heard on the audio version. So starting off with stuff and things, I've not really got much to say about this other than the random rummage craft along is going on. The chat thread has been really good fun. In fact, is going off in all sorts of different directions. And it is more of a chat about anything thread than a chat about the random rummage thread. It's been good fun, and it's exactly what I want in a chat thread for a craft along. People are just joining in and making connections on the Ravelry board. It's what I want to happen, and it seems to be happening. So don't forget that that's going on until the 31st of January. So you've got plenty of time to join in, even if you are stuck doing gift knitting right up until Christmas. You can always go and have a dive in amongst your stash and pull out something randomly and knit it to join in with the craft along, or crochet it, or weave it, or spin it. There's lots of different ways to join in, and I think a lot of people have been finding that it's really making them look hard at what they've already got in their stash again and finding forgotten treasures, and it's been fun. I think it's been good for a lot of people in a lot of ways, including myself, though I haven't actually knit my project from the yarn that I pulled out. I'm so bad at doing this. I start craft alongs and then I don't join in properly. I do intend to knit my mitts. I do. I just had some stuff to get out of the way first. And speaking of which, I can move on to done and dusted. The first thing I want to show you, I think I mentioned this in plotting in the last episode, is a Bali hat. And this is for my nephew, who has very similar colouring to me, and I think this colour will look good on him. And I have to say, I can see why people make lots of these Bali hats now, because they're so much fun. They're so simple and straightforward, and it's been knit in the Cascade 220 superwash, and I really like that yarn for kids knits because it is superwash, but it's also really soft and smooth. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the only thing I did differently was the alternate cable cast on the edge, which is what I tend to do now for most ribbed edgings. I think I like the look that it has. I don't know if I can show you. Oh yeah, you can see quite well there. You see how it sort of makes the edge kind of smooth. It doesn't have a line across it like you get with other types of cast-ons, and it looks the same on both sides, which is nice. But yeah, good fun, quick knit, and I'd quite happily knit loads more of those. In fact, I probably will, because the pattern goes right up to adult men's, and that will probably get used quite a lot in the coming years, because it's a free pattern. It's by Tin Can Knits, and it's part of their Simple Things collection, which is a whole range of knitting patterns designed to take you from beginning right through to learning sort of more complicated techniques. And the Barley Hat is one of the first ones, because it teaches about knitting, purling, garter stitch, in the round, casting on, decreasing, casting off. It's a good starter project, actually. I think it's quite a good one for learning how to knit in the round. And nice, simple knit, and it looks good. I blocked it on a balloon, and which meant I could blow up the top bit and leave the ribbing a little bit less stretched. I don't know how it's going to fit him, because I haven't measured his head, so I just made it to the size that they stated, and we'll see if it fits him or not. I think if anything it's going to be slightly too big, which is okay because he'll grow into it, but I think that'll look good. And the other hat that I've knit, this one for my niece, I've already shown you this, but I just wanted to show you it blocked out. It's the Alternato by Woolly Wormhead, and it's knit in Mia Mia Naturally Soft Merino, and it's in the petal colourway and the fuchsia colourway, and it's blocked out really nicely. I'm really pleased with that. And the top of the head, top of the hat I should say, the decreases look really good. And again, I did it on a balloon, so it wouldn't pull the twisted ribbing out too much. It's still got some give in it. It's got some elasticity, which is what I wanted. I wanted it to pull in slightly. And again, the alternate cable cast on, even though it's a twisted rib, and again it looks nice and neat. So those two hats are going to be going to their owners, their new owners, next weekend when I see my brother, sister-in-law and their kids, and also my dad and his wife. We're sort of doing a pretty early Christmas, because they know I've got lots of trips to do around Christmas to see various family. So I'm hoping to spread things out a bit more this Christmas, because it can get a bit tiring, shall we say, over Christmas. And this year I've not knitted any Christmas gifts. These hats are not Christmas gifts. They were knit because I wanted my niece and my nephew to have a nice hand knitted hat from their Auntie Chrissy. I didn't do it as a Christmas present. They're getting something else. And the reason being is I decided not to put any pressure on myself this year and do deadline knitting or crafting of any kind, because in previous years it's sucked all the enjoyment out of crafting gifts for my family and friends. You put all this pressure on yourself, and when somebody like me who hasn't got the stamina to kind of go along with that, it just takes the enjoyment and the pleasure out of it, and I don't want to do that. And it's meant that I'm enjoying my crafting in December for the first time in about 5 years. So yeah, they're not Christmas gifts, they're just winter gifts. But yeah, hopefully they'll like those hats. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I'm wearing my Cool Clavicle cover by Megan Williams in Sweet Georgia Tough Sock in the Tea Party colourway. And I think I've shown you this since on the video podcast, because I think I finished it since I started, and I really like it. It's got a nice weight to it, but it's really soft. I think it's probably quite a dense sock weight yarn, but I really like it, and it's a really nice pattern, and I probably would do another one. In fact, I saw Christy of Inner Snip, and she recently posted a cool calico cover in handspun gradient yarn, and it looked gorgeous. So that would be something to think about, doing it in a handspun. I think it'd look really good. I think the texture of it would break up with the texture of the stitches would break up any sort of weird pooling you might get. Not that you tend to get much as much pooling with handspun yarn. So, but I just think it'd look nice. I think it would look good. It's a good shape and it's comfortable, and I think it's a good project. I like it. So, getting back on track, the other hat I've done, yes, that's 3 hats this episode, is something that I made up, and this is knit from Posh Yarn Martha Sport, and it's a merino cashmere nylon blend, and it is so soft. It's kind of hard to see. You can see the stitch definition there, I think, and it's beautiful. It's lovely and plump and smooth and soft and warm, and it's lovely. And I sort of looked for quite a long time for a pattern to go with this particular yarn, because I wanted it to go with mainly to go with my long and winding row cowl that I spun out of Rambouillet, and it has a lot of this particular kind of greeny colour in it, and I didn't have any hats that would go. All my hats in green were kind of a more limey green, more citrusy green colour, so it didn't really go with anything that's this kind of sagey green. And in fact, I've got another cowl, and I've got my Novem, which is in this kind of colour as well. So having a hat to go with it is a good thing. So I looked for the pattern, couldn't find anything, decided that I wanted to essentially make my own sock head hat, but for sport weight. So I did some sort of swatching and decided that I was going to cast on how many over stitches, and I did a 1x1 rib for 4 inches, peering over again, for 4 inches, and did it in a smaller needle than the main body. I never tell you the needle sizes I use when I'm knitting. I know some podcasters do. I won't ever do that because my gauge is very loose. I never ever hit gauge. Just doesn't happen with the recommended needle size. So I always have to drop down. In fact, it's very, very rarely I don't have to. So I will always be, if I say I'm knitting it with these needles, they won't match the pattern, they won't match your gauge. There's no point. Anyway, I knit the ribbing on a size smaller than I knit the main hat. What I've done actually is I've written down what I did in my project notes on Ravelry, because I know I'll probably want to do this again. So like I say, it won't be the right gauge with the needles. I don't know, maybe I'll measure the gauge of the hat, and then I'll pop that in the notes as well, so you can make up your own mind if you want to try it, because it essentially is just a copy of the sock head hat, but with 1x1 ribbing instead of 2x2, which is what the sock head hat has. I prefer to have a denser ribbing because my ears are the things that get cold, and if I've got a nice dense ribbing, it keeps them warmer. It sort of pulls the ribs closer together, which means you almost have like a dual layer of yarn caused by the ribbing. So if I've got that and then I fold it over like the sock head hat does, you end up with essentially almost 3 layers of knitted fabric to keep your ears warm. So this is probably mainly how I'll wear it. It's slightly slouchy worn like this, not very, just slightly, and the ribbing's nice and deep, keeps my ears nice and toasty warm. The ribbing pulls in tight as well, so it stops any air going up the up the back of the neck, and because it's slouchy, I can pull the back right down to the nape of my neck, right down to the bottom, that bone at the bottom of your neck. I can pull it down to there, and then any sort of scarf or cowl will sit on top of that, and that'll keep my neck nice and warm, because my neck does tend to get a bit cold. I kind of, if I get a cold neck, it gets very stiff. So I try and keep the back of my neck warm when I go out. Anyway, that's probably how I'll mostly wear it. But if it's a bit warmer and I just want to control my hair, because that's what I tend to do, that's what my sock head hats get used for. It's to sort of keep my hair from filling my face. And it's a lot more slouchy like that. But I like it that way as well. So that keeps my hair out of my eyes when I'm on my scooter, because my hands are on the sort of steering bar. And if I get hair in my face, I'm going at like 4 miles an hour on that thing. And that's, even though that's like a fast walk, almost a jog, you know, if I'm trying to clear my hair out my face and I'm going 4 miles an hour, I could easily end up going into a lamppost or something. So it's good to keep my hair out my face. Gosh, it's warm. Huh. Has heated my head up. No, gone pink. So I'm really pleased with how that's turned out. I did very similar decreases to the sock head hat. In fact, I used the same ratio that the sock head hat did, but I did more or less. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was a different number anyway, because of the amount of stitches cast on. So, but I like how the decreases work. It sort of makes it nice and flat, which makes it slouch more, I think. I like it a lot. Now, to block this hat, I've got one of those polystyrene head things, and what I do with hats is I wet block and I put them over the top of the head and sort of flatten down the crown, and then just gently pull the rest of the hat sort of down, so it's kind of hanging. It's not tight around the forehead of the polystyrene head, it's down around the neck. And what I do is then leave it to dry, and every couple of hours kind of rotate it round so it's nice and evenly round at the crown, because the polystyrene head's kind of like a normal head, and it's almost like an oval shape if you look down on it. So I turn it round, and it also stops nose imprints in the body of the hat. But what that does is it lets just the weight of the hat even out the stitches, and it stops the ribbing from being pulled out. So it's nice and elastic. But yeah, really, really happy with that hat, and I've worn it already, and it was lovely and warm on my scooter. Right. Oh no, there's something. There's 2 more of the things in Done and Dusted. Can you believe it? Told you I've been busy. This next one was knit from stash, like the hat I've just knit. That was from stash as well, and it is the Quaker Yarn Stretcher Boomerang by Susan Ashcroft. And gosh, it's hard to show you. But this is from Norrow Silk Garden Sock. The colour's not very accurate. Let's see if I can. That's better. That's more an accurate colour. That kind of turquoisey blue, hot pink and purple, and the sort of white and the sagey green and the moss green. Those are the colours. And I used 2 skeins. And it's a nice, simple, straightforward pattern. The texture, can you see the texture if I angle it a bit? With alternating stockinette, reverse stockinette. It's hard to tell if you can see it or not. But I really, really fun. You don't have time. You don't get bored. I love these bias shawls. They're really, really difficult to block. They're really hard to block because they curve around the edges because it's a boomerang shape. Like this long straight edge goes down to the point, and then you've got this long wing, which is great for wearing because you can really wrap. So you've got the shorter edge on this side. Sorry, I just nudged you. So you can wrap that round, and then you can take this long bit and wrap it round again, and you get this lovely warm sort of textured, colourful, in my case, shawl, scarf, what have you. I'm really, really pleased with it. I do like Noro Silk Garden. It's a lot softer than some of the Noros, and I do like a stripe, as you well know, and it just keeps it fun when you're knitting something big and straightforward. Yeah, really, really enjoyed the knit. In fact, I'm going to straighten you because you've gone lopsided. Hold still. There you go. So, a really nice pattern. I do like Susan Ashcroft's patterns. They're interesting, they're well written, they're good ideas, and they work and they're fun to knit. And they look good when they're finished, and they're usable, very usable projects. And that makes a difference. It's all very well having something beautiful and lacy and delicate, but if you don't go anywhere where you can use it, it feels like a bit of a waste. I mean, I've got a few of those shawls, and they very, very rarely leave the house. In fact, they're very rarely put around my shoulders at all. And it's kind of sad because you kind of like want to take them out and party, but when you don't go to parties, you can't do that. So things like more substantial shawly type scarves or big swoopy shawls that can like wrap me up warm when I'm sat in the lounge waiting for it to heat up in the morning, then those are the things that I'm going to use more. And I feel like I'm understanding more what kind of things I can use and wear and all the rest of it. And at the moment, because my weight is changing, I'm loath to carry on knitting the Maran cardigan. I've sort of got to the yoke, but I'm like, well, I don't necessarily want to work out all the bust sizing as my bust is shrinking, if you see what I mean. I don't want it to put in lots of effort to have something that won't fit properly. So I'm kind of waiting a bit to see where my weight will stabilise. I'm just going to keep trying to lose weight until I don't. So the shawls are perfect because it means I don't have to worry about size, and they'll fit whatever size I am. And things like hats and mitts and toys and socks, they're all things that will fit no matter what size I am. So it's, yeah, it's kind of tricky to do clothing, and it's kind of why for the last year I've not really been doing it, because I've been put on quite a lot of weight when I changed my meds a year or two ago, and last year I started trying to lose it, and I've lost 1.5 stone so far, but I want to lose more. And I'm now at the stage where every pound makes a difference to my circumference. So it's like, if I lose 2 pounds in a week, that's, you know, that's an extra centimetre off me. So I don't know if it's a good idea to be knitting clothes at the moment. I don't know. I'm just going through a bit of a spurt with it actually coming off quite quickly, whereas before that it was really slow. So I don't know. It could all change again, slow down again. It's hard to tell. because things like how I'm feeling physically and mentally all affect how much I can lose. Because I can't exercise, whatever weight I lose has to be done through food intake. And around Christmas, I have no idea how I'm going to not put on loads of weight. Because yeah, if your families are anything like mine, there's lots of food around at Christmas, a lot. So, and when you have 4 Christmas dinners, it's quite a lot, really. So, anyway, enough of me talking about my weight. You don't want to hear about that. You want to hear about pretty things. So, I've blocked some more of my sock yarn squares. I've got, I think, 8 here. Yeah, I've done some more of them, and I'm really, again, very pleased with how they've come out. I love that colour. I think it was a Countess Ablaze colour, King Midas. It's gorgeous. This is a posh yarn one that I knit a shawlette out of. Countess Ablaze again. I knit a sock kid hat out of that. I have no idea what I knit out of that. Oh, it might have been an Aced Light shawl. Another sock head hat. It's a memory trip. Whenever you knit one of these squares or block one of them, it's definitely a trip down memory lane. It's good fun. It's nice to have somewhere where they're all together. I like it. So what I've decided after blocking these was that my bind off is a bit too tight on some of them. So I'm going to start doing Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off, which is the bind off I use for socks and anything that has to be elastic. Especially often I use it for shawl cast offs. Because like you can see here, this is just a regular bind off and there's just nothing, there's no give. Which means if you're trying to stretch out the body of the shawl, the body of the square, it's the outer edges that are restricting that. So I don't want that to happen. So from now on, I'm going to use Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off. And that is it for done and dusted. Ha! Massive pile of stuff. That's quite good fun. Nose to the grindstone. There's less of this. The first thing is my vanilla socks using the Wool Barnes Poison colourway, the merino. Let's see if I can. There we go. There's the colour. Merino superwash. It's 75% merino, 25% nylon. It's really nice. It's really smooth, actually. Let me see if I can show you the stitches. Very nice. I'm really enjoying knitting those. And in fact, I've got past the heel on my second sock. And we're going great guns. Whenever I don't feel like thinking knitting, I do that. So, by the way, this is in a project bag that I got from Etsy, and the name of the shop is Knitter Bag, and she does most, I think these are hand printed, the fabrics. I love these little sheets, they're so cute. And it's linen, and inside is lined, let me take this out so I can show you. The inside is lined with quite thick white material, and there's 4 pockets that go around the edge of the project bag, which means I've got tape measure in one, and I've got stitch markers and scissors in another. I've got a needle in one. Have you seen these little higher retractable tape measures? They're so useful. They're only a few pounds and they're really neat. And I sort of, whenever I sort of put in an order for some yarn or something, tend to try and add one of those on so I can stick them in the various project bags I've got. But I really like this bag. It's got really good, nice drawstring, and it's got a handle for you to put on your wrist. So if you're, like for instance, if I'm at a knit night when I'm out and about, I can hang this from my wrist or the back of my chair and not really worry about it falling on the floor. But it's a good bag. Yeah, the shop is Knitterbag, and there's a link in the show notes. And it's a European one. So for all you Europeans in the European Union, you can get that without having to pay customs duty. So that's the sock. What have we got next? Oh, this has been the thing that's completely obsessed me. This is a new bag. It is from Absolute Wonder on Etsy, and it's a really nice bag. It's got nice little loop, lovely pull on the zipper. It's like a pearlized button. Inside are these amazing rainbows. It's just beautifully made, and it's got 2 skeins of sock yarn in there and a part finished shawl. And this was done by Ginger, who is the proprietor of, gosh, what's it called again? I've just said it. Going mad. Absolute Wonder. Do you know what it is? It's because I've read her blog for ages, and her blog is Wonder Why Farms, I think. She's got an alpaca farm. So this was done to raise funds for Silly Fru, the Sassy Pants knitter. And Wendy sadly developed hairy cell leukemia, and she's in remission, but obviously there were a lot of bills that accumulated when she was sick. So quite a lot of various sort of crafters and makers and designers did deals where the proceeds from sales went to Wendy's fundraising efforts. And I think this is beautiful, and it's really good value as well. And it's the medium wedge, which I think is a really nice size, sort of, I don't know how to, there we go, wrist to elbow length. And yeah, it's really, really well made, and I think I might be getting more of these because they're under the £15 customs limit. So I can see myself getting more of these because they're really well, they're padded, interfaced, they're really sturdy. Yeah, really, really well made. So I recommend Absolute Wonder for bags, even though she's in America. So the project that is in this bag is Dotted Rays by Stephen West. Now, I saw this project when it first came out, the pattern when it first came out, and I really liked it. And I thought, yeah, I really want to knit that. And then didn't think anything more of it. And then Kristen from Skein Yarns, she's got a podcast as well, video podcast. She's in Australia. And it's very strange seeing her sort of getting all hot and bothered when we're going into winter because they're going into summer. So, but it's a really good podcast. I really enjoy it. And she made one from one of her speckle dyed yarns, and it looks amazing. In fact, I've linked to the project in my show notes. Definitely go and have a look. It's gorgeous. And I just thought, that looks really good. It looks really useful, the size and shape of it, because it's long and thin but curved, and it's got these lovely short rows and the dots, and that keeps it really interesting because the short row shaping along with intervals where you do double yarn overs and things, and the edges are done. Can I see if you can see that? I don't know if you can see. It's very hard to show you because the lighting's not great today. Anyway, it's an I-cord edge, and I really like the way it's looking. It's really neat, and it's still got elasticity in it. I like it a lot. Anyway, the yarn I'm using was very kindly given to me, and it's Dye for Yarn Merino Silk Fingering in the Bloodbath colourway. It's this amazing, rich, deep red. It's almost that colour. It's a bit more red and a bit less brown than that. No, it's not going to help. I'm beginning to think I might have to get proper lights in here. Don't want to do that. It's more things to dig out. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm alternating skeins, and I'm quite glad I did, because you can see there are quite distinct stripes through it. And if I just sort of started midway through changing skeins, it would have been very, very glaringly obvious. And I actually quite like the way because of the short rows, the stripes are kind of curved. I like that a lot. And yeah, I'm really, really enjoying that. And it's actually fairly mindless in sections, because what I've been doing is using a stitch marker. Because what you do is, with the short rows, each section gets shorter by a certain amount of stitches. So what I do is, when I do the turn, I then sort of count as I'm knitting the next stitches and pop the stitch marker in. That's one of my own. Where you need to do the next turn, and that's made it so much easier to keep track of. You don't need to count as much. You just don't have to look at what you're doing. You just stop when you get to the stitch marker and then turn it and count back. So it's very straightforward, very simple. The yarn is beautiful. It's the first time I've used Dye for Yarn. Dye for Yarn? I always get them mixed. No, Dye for Wool. This is confusing. They have two Etsy shops. There is Dye for Wool and there is Dye for Yarn. Dye for Yarn tends to be more silk, and whereas Dye for Wool tends to have wool content. Now, this was a Dye for Wool yarn, but I couldn't find it on the shop. I found something like it on the Dye for Yarn shop. There are links to both shops in my show notes, so you can go and have a look, but they're gorgeous, gorgeous yarns. I've wanted to knit with them for ages, so I was so, so grateful to receive it. The yarn as a gift, and it's lovely. It's obviously, I think it's probably because it's an older yarn. It's come from somebody's stash. That's why it's in a different, it's got a different name, different shop. So but the shops are run by the same people. They're just different sort of categories. I don't know why they've segregated it like that. I don't know why they've done it, but they're all beautiful. They're all sort of tend to be semi-solids and very, very rich and saturated colours. So I think when that's finished, that's going to be a gorgeous sort of shawly scarf type thing again. Yeah, really, really beautiful project, and I think it's going to make something really nice. And I think I think this pattern will be reasonably easy to alter for the amount of yarn you had, I think. So it'll be interesting to see whether I can extend it a little bit if I've got enough yarn. But yeah, it's Stephen West writes great patterns. there's no two ways about it. He has a really interesting creative way of looking at the world, and it shows in his knitting designs. So that is Dotted Rays by Stephen West in Dye for Yarns Merino Silk Fingering. And next we have spinning that I'm doing. The first spinning is it's Baby Llama and Tussar Silk from Countess Ablaze. I've shown you this before and it's kind of slipped by the wayside a bit. There we go. And I'm doing, I think the Baby Llama is the black and the silk is the colour. And what I've been doing is just tearing a chunk off, and yeah, you can see the lovely colours. Lovely, lovely colours. It's beautiful. Really enjoying it, though the fluff does seem to get everywhere. Yeah, I'm tearing chunks off and spinning it from the fold long draw, and I'm quite enjoying that. I originally started trying to do it keeping track of what I was doing, like the gauge of the singles I was spinning. Can't be bothered anymore. I'm just enjoying doing some long draw. But I've not really done a lot on that. I just started that when I finished spinning this, which is the Artist Palette Merino Tencel in the loose change colourway, and I have been plying it, and it is gorgeous. So I've got a nice plying ball. That's a very accurate colour actually, and it's just 2-ply, and I spun it worsted, and I'm doing very loose ply because I just want to keep that softness. I think it'd be really nice as a cowl or something. It's a really beautiful, beautiful fibre, and I hope it's going to be as beautiful in yarn form. Gorgeous. And that is in my fondant fibre Owler bag, which I absolutely love. I love the owls. They're so cute. Excuse me a second while I have a quick drink. You might have gathered, I've been sick again. I've still got a blinking cold. I'm fed up. Good and fed up. It's just one thing after another. Everybody I know has got a cold. Like, so many people have had to go into hospital and have antibiotics, or bronchiolitis and pneumonia and bronchitis, and just so many tales of sickness, like really serious sickness, because I think it's because it's been so mild this autumn. We've not had a good hard frost to kill off all the germs. So yes, I've been sick again. Not really sick, just enough to have a scratchy throat and a bit of a stuffy head. Very annoying. I seem to get all the germs. Anyway, that is all the Nose to the Grindstone projects, and I think I'll just quickly talk about what I'm planning on spinning next, because I like to have more than one spinning project on the go at once. So I tend to have a couple of different fibres and colours and things to spin on, and also at least one at the stage of plying. So I have finished and washed the John Arbon Alpaca Supreme, and I have to say it's gorgeous. I posted a picture on Instagram of the unsoaked skein, and now it's been washed. It's gorgeous, but I've not reskeined it, I've not counted it, I've not measured it, so I'll show you it when I know what I've got in the next episode. But it's beautiful. So as that's now gone off my spindle, I want to I want to put something else on. So I'm going to put another Countess Blaze project on the spindle. Now this is merino and tussar silk. And it's 70% merino, 30% tussar silk, and the colourway is Let Us Add One Extra Night to Life. And you've gone dark. I can't see myself. I don't know what I was doing, but it's gorgeous. It's 200 grams, and technically you could knit it as a super bulky, but I intend to spin it. Now, I've never spun this pencil roving stuff before because it's got a very slight twist to it to keep it as a pencil roving. If they didn't, it would all drift apart. So what I've heard is you need to spin it in the opposite direction to the twist that's already in it, because what you need to do is kind of untwist it in order to draft it more. So this will be spinning in the opposite direction to what I normally spin it. So I'll be trying to spin with my left hand for the first time. I've never done it that way around, but I think it'll be an interesting experience. And I think being ambidextrous as a spindler is probably a good thing. But it's beautiful, really gorgeous, squishy thing. I love it. And yeah, it's going to be really exciting and interesting to spin that, I think. So that's what I'm plotting at the moment. The other thing I'm plotting is I really, really want to make thrummed mittens. Just really want to do it. For some reason, it's got into my head that this is something that I need to have. I don't know why. It's just something. I think I've seen quite a few. And Isolde recently did a thrummed slipper pattern, and it looks so nice. So I decided I wanted to do thrummed mittens, but I'm still looking around for a pattern. So if anyone's got any ideas of a good thrummed mittens pattern, please let me know, because I want to do them. And especially because I've now got lots of nice colourful fibre that I can use to make the thrums. That'll be fun. So that's my plotting, very short plotting. Splashed Out. You already saw the project bag. I actually pre-ordered that a few weeks ago, so it's taken a while to get here because they were being made as they were ordered. You can't get that bag anymore, but there's a really cute one on there which is just called Rainbows, and it's got the lining fabric on the outside with some other rainbow fabric sort of in the bottom half of the outside. Looks really fun. Really tempted to get one of those, but no, don't need any more project bags now until at least after Christmas. Mainly because I'm broke because of Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday. You have a lot to answer for, you Americans, with your Thanksgiving discount sales. I've spent far too much money last weekend. Far too much. But that'll all be arriving next week, so you'll have a lot to see next week. I'm broke, absolutely broke. Frightening how easy it is to spend money when you've got discount codes. It means you can afford yarn you wouldn't normally be able to afford, and you just think, wow, I can get it without paying customs charges. I must buy it now. All the shops that I normally can't get yarn from, and I was like, oh, buy. Part of that is because the pod retreat I was meant to be going to in February, they've had to change venue because the owner of the property double booked. Don't know how it's possible to double book a property, but never mind. So because people already bought tickets, transport has been arranged, people have got time off work, it was decided that Nick from Yarns on the Plain was going to find another venue close to Chester, and she managed to find a farmhouse, but it's about another hour outside Chester, and I just felt I couldn't do that extra journey time, so not going to pod retreat. So I was feeling very sad, and I got a refund, so I had to spend it. And once I started spending, I couldn't seem to stop. Admittedly, a lot of that was Christmas presents because I'm not crafting this year. I've had to buy Christmas presents, and I didn't realise quite how expensive Christmas got while I've been crafting. Never mind. Anyway, enough of my blether. The first thing, won't surprise you to know, it's a Countess Blaze yarn. It is Tia Merino, which is a single ply merino, and it's a 4-ply fingering weight, 100 grams, and it's 366 meters. I think it's about 400 yards off the top of my head, and it is delicious. Look at that green and the red and the purple and the grey. It's fantastically soft. I really want to make a project where the yarn can sing, and I think I've settled on doing Knit Me by Louise Aspingham, because that's a really simple, elegant shawlette type thing, and it'll really let the yarn sing because it needs to. It's beautiful. And around my neck. The colour, I'm so sorry about the lighting. It's getting worse and worse, and it's only 2 o'clock. So I got that because this is a repeatable colourway on a repeatable base, so it should come up again. And I got it last weekend because Countess Blaze, Lindsay, was celebrating 3 years since her shop opened, and I kind of had to celebrate along with her because I've kind of followed her along the way because I knew her from before when she was a blogger and bought her first skein of yarn that she ever sold and things like that. So had to celebrate along with her, and I've wanted this particular yarn for quite a long time, and it's beautiful, so I'm looking forward to knitting with that. I imagine that'll be quite soon actually. The other one that I got these are all non-discounted ones, these two. The first one is Northbound Knitting. The yarn is Superwash Merino Fingering, which is approximately 400 yards, 100 grams. And the colourway, that's it, that's the colourway, is called Flotsam. It's gorgeous, sort of dark greens and tealy greens and bronze colours. Gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. Really plump 2-ply yarn. And again, that's going to be something around my neck because it's not going to stand up to anything on my feet. But I actually managed to get this rather than directly from Northbound Knitting, I got it from Meadow Yarns, which is one of my favourite online local yarn shops. I get a lot of stuff from there, and they are a Northbound Knitting stockist, and they have this, and they have a lace weight and another fingering but with nylon, I think. So if you can't manage to score things, if you're in UK, if you can't manage to score on the update for Northbound Knitting, have a look at Meadow Yarns because the prices are not bad at all, and they also have an awful lot of other stuff. It's worth checking them out if you haven't before because the service is great and it's really fast. Definitely recommend it. But yeah, this yarn is beautiful. It's really squishy and soft. Would make a great sock head hat. I don't need any more. Maybe some sort of cowl with an interesting stitch pattern that I can sort of do a double loop on. So I've got a few of those cowls and I really like them and wear them quite a lot. And last but by no means least is a posh yarn. And this is called Agnes Sock, and it is 100% Blueface Leicester, and it's British Blueface Leicester, and it's 420 yards or 384 meters. It's 110 grams, and the colourway is called I Like People Who Smile When It's Raining. I love posh yarn's names, they're so good. And it's got this kind of dark sage green with bits of purpley red and brown, and it's really interesting. It's very, very squishy and bouncy, and it feels so silky as well. And I think it'd be quite hard wearing. Might be quite good for mittens or mitts, because Blueface Leicester is pretty hard wearing. So it would probably take quite a lot of abuse. A thing to ponder on. But I love Blueface Leicester, and I love Posh Yarns, and this was a new addition to their regular bases, and I just really wanted to try it. And it's pretty reasonable as well. That's one thing about Posh Yarns, they don't overcharge what you get, but it's very, very good value. But I really like that a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how that knits up. And I think that's everything. That's a lot to talk about, isn't it? A lot to talk about. This is the problem when I leave it 2 weeks in between recording. There's a lot to get through. I think with people who have lives outside crafting, they don't have so much to talk about if they leave it 2 weeks, whereas I do nothing but craft, which means I have loads to talk about if I leave it too long. But one thing I did want to talk about was over on the Ravelry group. I've been really enjoying looking at the what I've made thread, which is where you can post in FOs of any kind, just to share what you've been doing. And I've really enjoyed looking through those. And I've also enjoyed looking at the projects that are shared with the Ravelry group. You know, when you look at the Ravelry group board, there's like a box in the top right hand corner which is featured finished objects or something. But basically they're projects that people have shared with the group when they finished it, and really enjoyed looking at those. You are a very, very talented bunch. I did like your stuff, and I try and comment on as many as possible, because again, it's a way of engaging with other people, and it's also a really good way of finding new projects, new techniques, things like that. So I do recommend you check some of those out. They're interesting to look at, and please share with us when you finish things. It's lovely to see what you've been doing. Gives you more ideas about different patterns to try and things, because there's thousands of patterns out there, hundreds of thousands. There's a lot to look at, and it's very easy to miss real gems if you don't happen to stumble across it. So if you find a hidden gem, share it with us. It would be nice to see different patterns from the normal ones, which people have, you know, thousands of people have done, because they're in the limelight all the time, so people see them all the time, so people knit them all the time, which is kind of like this circle and cycle. And be nice to maybe add new ones to that cycle. And looking at my show notes, I think that's it for the day. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I love chatting to you. I really miss it when I don't, and I'm sorry when it goes more than weekly. I do miss it. But last week, actually, because I normally record on a Friday, I actually got a call from one of my best friends who I've not seen for a couple of months, because she's been absolutely snowed under at work, and she gave me a ring and said, "Be lovely to see you, come hang out." And so I did, and I'm sorry, but she came first, because I've not seen her in months, whereas I see you like once a week. You're like normal to me, talk to you all the time, whereas her, not seen for a while. So sorry about that. Yeah, if I do go out on a Friday, it's unlikely I will record at the weekend, because it takes a few days to get over it. And then that's what happened. I sort of thought, well, I'll record on Monday, and I still wasn't really over it, and stuff happened. So that's just life. Sadly, when you're sick, you have to sort of weigh up your priorities and decide where they belong at any given time. And last weekend it was with my friend, so that's why you missed out on an episode. But there are tons and tons and tons of other podcasts out there, and in fact, please share some with me. It'd be nice to find out some of the new ones, because there's been quite a lot recently that have come out, and be nice to give them a go, give them a try, add them to the list. And find out some more about people around the world. I do like doing that. And on that note, I shall say goodbye. Enjoy your crafting. I hope the run up to the end of the year isn't too crazy and you get a chance to craft something for yourself. And speak to you again soon. Bye.